am just amazed by his story. Here's this guy, and yeah, I should have access to it now. Here's this guy who he was on his way to being in the 27 Club. Alice Cooper was a rock star doing all the things that Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison were doing, his like rock star dads, if you will. He was looking up to them, and there's a thing within the rock world, these guys who get really deep into that culture, they die strangely at 27, and they're called the 27 Club because their lifestyle catches up to them. And it was like they were saying, it's so weird because they were saying like, hey guys, hey, like come join us, welcome to our nightmare life, you know? And here's this guy who grew up in the church, walked totally away from it, and he said, I was the true prodigal son. And I wrote this because I was like, I put all of his song lyrics together. He says, I'm amazed at someone who's gone so far, who has poisoned their life, lying on a bed of nails, and yet God still says, hey, desperado, come be my lover. If you know anything about his songs, it's a bunch of his titles. But as I was looking at his titles of his songs, I was like, oh, you can almost see the story of his life there. Like he was going down this terrible road, and his wife finally was like, that's it. Like, I don't want to be a part of this lifestyle with you anymore. So she left, and that was, I assume he hit rock bottom, and then he came back. He says, I was the true prodigal son. And so I thought we could look at that story today. Who is the prodigal son that he's talking about? And there's a story in the Bible. Whoa. There's this story in the Bible. Jesus is talking to a group of Pharisees. So the like uber religious, I'm so great, I'm just so good. And then the people who were the sinners, the people who knew they were Alice Coopers. They knew that they were these people, like their lives were kind of in the dirt, if you will. And he's telling the story to both of them. And Jesus says, there's a man who had two sons. The younger one said to his dad, Father, give me my share of the estate. And so he divided the property between them. And what we might not realize in our culture is, this kid is basically saying, man, Dad, I just wish you would die so I could have your money. You just give me my inheritance now. I don't want anything to do with you. I don't care about you. I just want money and freedom to go do what I want while I'm young enough to enjoy it. And so the father did. The father sold off. Can you imagine? Seriously, think about that. Selling off half of all of your estate and giving it to your kid who you know, let's be real parents, you know what they're going to do with it. The father had to know that this son is going to go and get reckless with this. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And that's what he did. It says not long after that, the younger son got all together, all he had, and he set out for a distant country where he squandered his wealth in wild living. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, that's what he was doing. Wild living. And then after he spent everything, after he went through all of that money, there was a famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. He was broke, and he didn't have a job, and now he's like hungry. So he goes and gets himself a job. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen in that country who sent him to the fields to feed the pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. He's sent out to the fields to live with pigs. As a Jewish person, like the people listening to the story are Jewish, they understand this is the lowest of the low. This is as bad as it gets because they wouldn't even touch pigs. They would not eat pigs. They considered pigs to be these filthy, dirty creatures that ate slop, and therefore you don't eat them. And you don't touch them. If you touch them, like, oh, you're unclean. So for the Jewish people, this is Jesus saying, this guy was as low as it gets. He would become as much of a reprobate as possible. And when he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am starving. I know what I'll do. I'm going to set out and go back to my father, then say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your servants. And so he got up to go see his father. So basically he's like, Dad, I know that I don't deserve, I'm sure you disinherited me, and that's fine, but can I at least come and work for you? He didn't expect to come back and be welcomed as a son. He says, but while he was a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him, and he ran to his son. He threw his arms around him and he kissed him. And the son said, Father, don't, I've sinned. against heaven, against you. I am no longer worthy of your love. I'm no longer worthy of your kisses. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to the servants, quick, bring the best robe, put it on, and put a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet. Bring the fatted calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. I love the response of the father. It says here that when he was a long way off, the father saw him. This tells me that every day, all day, the father was watching the road, waiting and hoping and praying that his son would come home. Desperate to see him. And the second he saw him, this father, so I picture like this man in his like 60s or something, picking up, because they had those long robes, picking up his robe and running in his sandals to meet his son and grasping him in a huge hug. His son who smelled like pig crap. Let's be real. The son had been working with pigs. He probably only had one outfit left to his name, and he had been out in the fields feeding pigs. So imagine what he smelled like and looked like. And what's the father's response? Oh my God, my son, I love you. Let's get him a fresh outfit. Let's get him new sandals. Let's get a ring and put it on his finger to signify that this is my son. Not, the father doesn't sit back going, oh, what brings you back now? You finally come to your senses? Finally decide that life isn't so great out there? That was not the father's response. The father's response was to run to him and kiss his filthy, sweaty, broke, good-for-nothing son. That is how God responds to every single one of his kids who comes back to him. When Alice Cooper, who had gone as far to one side as you can, throwing chickens and dancing with snakes and corpses, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, all the things that he could do bad in society, and God wasn't like, well, if you get it together, then I guess I'll consider letting you back in. God ran to Alice and hugged him. There are people in our community who are Alice Coopers right now, who are sitting with the pigs, who are wasting their life in wild living, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And what is our response? A lot of times our response when we see those people is, ugh, we cross the street so that we don't have to be near them or smell them. We see someone misbehaving, we're like, you need to get yourself together. Instead, we should be running to them, hugging them, kissing them. What can I do for you? But instead, we tend to be like this guy. Meanwhile, the older son is in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing, so he called one of the servants and said, hey, what's going on? And the servant says, your brother came home, and your father killed a fatted calf, and he's so happy to have him back safe and sound. The older brother got mad and refused to go in. And so the father came out to plead with him, and he's like, look, all these years, I've been slaving away. I have never disobeyed you. I come to church. I give my money. I'm a good person. I tell the truth. I'm a nice person to everybody. I do all these good things. And you never even gave me a young goat so I could have a party with my friends. But oh, this son who makes you sell all your stuff, who goes and spends it in wild living, who comes back covered in pig poop, this reprobate, you're going to throw a party for him? What about me? You did all this for him, and I've stuck by you this whole time, and you don't do anything for me? That's crap. And the father's like, but son, you were always with me. Everything I have had has been yours the whole time. All you had to do was ask for a goat, and I will let you have a party with your friends. It's basically what he's saying. He's like, you stuck with me. So you just stuck with me to get the reward, or did you stick with me because you loved me? Because I have loved you from the whole time. He says, and now we celebrate because your brother was dead. He was dead to us. We didn't know if he would ever come back. We didn't know if he was lying in a ditch. We didn't know where he was or what he was doing. He was dead to us, and now he's alive, and he's home, and he's safe and sound with us. That is cause to celebrate. And so many of us become the big brother. So many of us get all like, I would never do that. I would never act like that. They need to get it together. I can't believe that they would come here and say that they're good, but I know what they do. I see their Facebook page. I know what they're getting into. Like coming to church and acting like you're so good. I know what you do behind closed doors. So which one are you? Some of us in here can relate to the younger brother, the Alice Coopers. Some of us have been in that spot where we're sitting with the pigs and we want to come home. And to you guys, God's like, come on, baby. Come on home. I got big arms for you. I don't care if you're covered in pig poop. I'm going to hug and kiss you because I love you. And some of us have been the older brother who see that younger brother out there in life, and instead of running out to find him, I always wish there was a third brother. I always want there to be a third brother in the story who goes to find the younger brother. Kind of like that guy, and what's that true story? The brother goes to like World War II to find his brother or whatever, Vietnam. There's a story of this brother's going looking for his brother. I always want there to be another brother who go out and get that brother. But Jesus tells the story of two because his listeners are sinners and Pharisees. And I feel like once we come home and get the ring, then we tend to switch. After we've been home for a while, we tend to switch our tendency, and we tend to become the big brothers who are like, I can't believe you're letting him come back. And so we got to watch our tone, because John was Jesus's like best friend. In the Last Supper, the guy leaning his head, it's a guy, by the way, leaning his head on Jesus, that's John. John is the one who Jesus said, hey, I want you to take charge of my mom, take care of my mama. So he was like Jesus's bestie. He says, oh, you think you're good, big brother? If you think you haven't sinned, then you are a liar. Because you're all sinners. Every one of us. Every one of us is a sinner. Every one of us has the stamp of sinner until we say yes to Jesus. Every one of us in some way, shape, or form has been the younger brother. We have called people fools. We have skipped the Sabbath. We have talked bad about people. We have judged people. You know the sin that wrecked the world? It wasn't a sexual sin. The sin that wrecked the world wasn't sex, drugs, and rock and roll. The sin that wrecked the world was our want to judge people. And I know for me, I have judged people. And I shouldn't. I try not to, but I've done it. If you've gossiped about people, if you've looked down your nose at people, then you're a sinner too. You're sitting with the pigs. And the answer to that is, come on home to Jesus. Come back to Jesus, come back to God and be like, God, I messed up. I'm sorry. Because unless you were treating everybody like Jesus treats everybody, like God treats everybody all the time, then you're a sinner. We all are. And so we've got to adjust the way we think and stop being big brothers and start being more like fathers who run to the pig-encrusted people and wrap our arms around them and say, I love you. That's who we're meant and made to be. And I totally forgot to put today's dare up. I'm just realizing as I went to click that I totally forgot today's dare. So I dare you today to do is to spend some time and really think about which brother are you? And try to be honest with yourself. Which brother are you more often? Because we're on both sides at times. Ask yourself, are there any little brothers in my life who I am judging and shunning? And then I want you to read the story of the prodigal son, which is in Luke 15. Read that. And to engage, look around your sphere, work, your neighborhood, your family, wherever your sphere is. Look for a little brother. Look for a lost little brother, an Alice Cooper, who has gone so far beyond that nobody thinks that there's any hope that they can come back. And start treating them like the loving Father. Treat them like humans. Treat them like God wants you to treat them. Because there is healing for all of us when we come home to the Father. He is so happy when someone comes home to him. And all of God's children said,